Canadians are cutting back on eating out and restaurants are feeling it. A new study suggests thousands of restaurants could close in 2026.
Mouse droppings were found next to the coffee machine. Not as an expression, not as an exaggeration. Active rodent contamination in the same space where Tim Hortons brews the double-double millions of Canadians drink every single morning. That is number 2 on this list. And once you know it happened, you start wondering what else got through while you weren't looking. Here's what took me a long time to figure out. This isn't one chain having a bad night. 6 chains on this list made deliberate decisions. Calculated, board-approved decisions about what goes in your food. And they counted on you never asking. Every single meal you have eaten at these places, someone at a conference table already knew and decided that was fine. 6 chains to avoid, 1 that actually earned your money, and a corporate ownership pattern that explains why so many of these places feel different from how they used to. Let's go. Number 7. Worst, Boston Pizza. The chain that proves a famous name is no guarantee of what's happening in the kitchen. Let's start at the bottom, and honestly, landing here took some doing, because to earn the worst spot on this list, you have to fail on multiple fronts simultaneously. Boston Pizza manages it with what can only be described as a kind of grim consistency. Here's the thing about big franchise chains that Canadians tend to forget. The logo on the sign and the reality behind the kitchen door are 2 entirely different conversations. Boston Pizza has over 380 locations across this country. That's 380 individual franchises, 380 different owners, 380 different back-of-house cultures. And public health authorities in every province will tell you the same thing. When you're inspecting that many kitchens, the same problems surface again and again. Sanitation lapses, temperature control failures, pest activity. The brand name doesn't protect you. The person running that specific kitchen does. And right now, across Canada, the picture that emerges from those public inspection reports is uncomfortable. It's not that every Boston Pizza is a disaster. Some locations are clean, well-run, and doing honest work. But the pattern of violations, the recurring themes that show up from British Columbia to Ontario, tells you something real about what's happening systemically inside this chain. You can have one location that's spotless and another that looks like it genuinely gave up sometime around 2019. Picture a hockey night in BC. The Canucks are playing, the restaurant is absolutely slammed, and the kitchen is running at full tilt. According to a former cook from a British Columbia location, this is exactly when the corners get cut hardest. During those peak rushes, the kind of nights Boston Pizza is practically built around, the hockey crowd nights that are supposed to be their bread and butter, pizzas were going out half-cooked. Not slightly underdone, half-cooked. The ovens simply couldn't keep up with the volume of orders pouring in, so management's reported solution was to blast the pizzas on higher heat for less time. The cheese would melt and bubble, giving the visual impression of a properly cooked pizza. The edges would brown, but the center, still cold. Now you might think, okay, slightly undercooked pizza, that's annoying but not the end of the world, except it absolutely can be. Undercooked pizza dough can harbor bacteria. And improperly cooked toppings, particularly chicken and sausage, 2 of the most common pizza toppings on the Boston Pizza menu, create very real foodborne illness risks. Chicken needs to reach an internal temperature of 74 degrees Celsius to be safe. When you're rushing pies through an oven just to get the cheese melted and move on to the next order, there is no guarantee that's happening. The next time you order a chicken bacon ranch pizza on a Friday night when the place is packed, that's worth thinking about. Then there's the larger question of what Boston Pizza actually is, culinarily speaking, and the answer, according to multiple former employees, is considerably less impressive than the menu makes it sound. Those pasta dishes you've been ordering? They start with pre-cooked frozen pasta that gets reheated in boiling water. The sauces, the ones that sound like they've been slow-simmered with care, arrive at the restaurant in industrial plastic bags, get heated in hot water baths, and get poured over your plate. One former manager described it with admirable bluntness: a microwave meal with plating. You are paying $18 for something, they said, that you could make better at home with a frozen dinner from No Frills. Let that sit with you the next time you're looking at that menu and thinking the pasta primavera sounds like a nice treat. The appetizers follow the exact same playbook. Those signature wings that Boston Pizza has built a significant part of its identity around? They arrive frozen from a central supplier. The nachos, a menu staple, the thing half the table orders while deciding on mains, use pre-shredded cheese that arrives in massive industrial bags and sits open in walk-in coolers for days. To be fair, and fairness matters here, frozen and pre-prepped ingredients are not exclusively a Boston Pizza problem. But the safety side of that equation is what pushes them to the bottom of this ranking. Health inspections in multiple provinces have flagged Boston Pizza locations for dirty equipment, food stored incorrectly, and basic hygiene slipping under pressure. These aren't one-off incidents at a single rogue location. They're a pattern, recurring themes across a national chain that has the resources and the brand infrastructure to do significantly better. When you're paying to take your family out for dinner, after hockey practice, on a Saturday night, during a special occasion, you are entitled to food that was stored properly, cooked properly, and handled by staff who were given both the time and the training to do it right. Based on the evidence, Boston Pizza is not reliably delivering that. And at $18 to $25 a plate, that's not acceptable. At Boston Pizza, increasingly, it seems like what's happening behind those doors is something the marketing department would very much prefer you never found out about. At number 6, Eastside Mario's, a homemade Italian experience that's about as homemade as a TV dinner. If Boston Pizza represents the floor of what a Canadian casual dining chain can get away with, Eastside Mario's is the ceiling of what you can accomplish with a straight face and some red and white checkered tablecloths. Eastside Mario's has built its entire brand identity around the warm, nostalgic mythology of Italian-American home cooking, the kind of place where Nonna would feel right at home, where the sauce has been simmering since morning, where everything tastes like it was made with love in someone's actual kitchen. The reality, according to former employees, health inspection records, and basic investigative arithmetic, is something else entirely. Let's start with the ownership structure, because it matters more than you might think. Eastside Mario's is owned by Recipe Unlimited, a Canadian hospitality conglomerate that also owns several other chains on this list. And here's the thing about being part of a massive parent company. It doesn't automatically make your kitchen safer. It doesn't mean standards are uniformly enforced. It doesn't mean the person running the fryer at your local Eastside Mario's in Ottawa or Newmarket has been trained to the same level as the corporate deck suggests. The day-to-day reality still comes down to each individual location, each individual manager, each individual shift. Recipe Unlimited can write whatever food safety policy it likes. What happens at 9 p.m. on a busy Tuesday when the kitchen is short-staffed and the soup has been sitting in the warmer since noon is a different story entirely. And that soup situation, let's spend some time there because it is genuinely one of the more stomach-turning details we uncovered. Eastside Mario's has long marketed its all-you-can-eat soup and salad bar as a key part of the dining experience. It's comfort food, it's value, it's the thing families with kids gravitate toward because it feels wholesome and abundant. Former employees have described it as something else. Here's what was allegedly happening. The soup sits in warmers for hours, sometimes, according to an employee, for the entire day. The official food safety protocol requires replacing soup every 4 hours. But when business is slow, management allegedly instructed staff to skip that step and simply add fresh soup on top of whatever was already sitting in the warmer, which means the bottom layer of that minestrone or chicken noodle you're ladling into your bowl during dinner service could be soup that's been sitting there since the lunch rush. Health Canada is clear on this. Cooked food that sits in the temperature danger zone between 4 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius for more than 2 hours needs to go. The salad bar is reportedly worse. Multiple former employees have described a practice of taking wilted, past its prime lettuce and dunking it in ice water to make it look crisp and fresh again. Vegetables that by any honest assessment should have been thrown out get buried at the bottom of the bins, with fresh produce placed on top to give the surface a look of quality. You're reaching into that bin thinking you're getting today's fresh vegetables. You might be getting yesterday's, dressed up to fool you. And then there's the pasta. Oh, the pasta. The centerpiece of a restaurant that has staked its entire identity on Italian home cooking. Former employees are remarkably consistent on this point. Everything arrives frozen or pre-made. The marinara sauce that the menu implies has been lovingly crafted from fresh tomatoes. It comes in 20-liter plastic tubs from Cisco, a commercial food distributor. The meatballs that are supposed to evoke Sunday dinners and family tradition. Frozen, pre-formed, and reheated in the sauce. The garlic bread, that warm, buttery constant of the Eastside Mario's experience, is par-baked, frozen, and finished in the oven. Every element of the homemade narrative is, in practice, a fiction, which would be merely disappointing if the prices reflected it. You are not paying for someone's culinary craft. You are paying for the ambiance of craft, the marketing of craft, while receiving something assembled from Cisco tubs and frozen bags. Health inspections across multiple provinces have repeatedly cited Eastside Mario's locations for improper food storage, inadequate cleaning of food contact surfaces, and employees failing to wash hands between tasks. So if you're looking for the warm, genuine Italian-Canadian dining experience that Eastside Mario's has spent decades promising you, The evidence suggests you'd be better off making pasta at home or spending a bit more at an actual independent Italian restaurant where someone is genuinely cooking. Montana's the smokehouse that's never seen a smoker. Montana's wants you to feel like you've walked into a rustic Texas roadhouse somewhere on the Canadian prairies. Exposed timber, country music, servers in flannel, and the promise of slow-smoked BBQ that's been cooking low and slow all day. It's a compelling atmosphere, especially on a cold February night when you've just dragged the family in from the parking lot and everyone's half frozen and starving. The problem is that everything about that smokehouse identity, according to former employees, is pure theater. Let's start with the ribs, because if you're going to call yourself a smokehouse, the ribs are your entire argument. A former cook from a Calgary location put it plainly: nothing is actually smoked. The ribs arrive pre-cooked and frozen, sealed in bags of liquid smoke sauce. Staff heat them in boiling water, then throw them on the grill briefly for char marks. That's the entire process. The grill marks are real. The smokehouse story is not. The brisket, another BBQ cornerstone, arrives pre-sliced and vacuum sealed. The pulled pork comes in plastic tubs, already shredded and sauced. The chicken wings are pre-cooked and frozen. Staff fry them simply to reheat and crisp the skin. You are paying for the idea of BBQ. What you're receiving is reheated, pre-packaged product dressed up with grill marks and rustic decor. But the marketing fiction isn't even the most alarming part. The food safety picture at Montana's locations is where things get genuinely concerning. Former employees have described serious temperature control failures during busy service periods. One worker from an Edmonton location reported watching chickens sit at room temperature on prep stations for 3 hours during a Saturday rush because cooler space was maxed out and there was simply no time to properly rotate stock. When this employee raised the concern with management, the reported response was dismissive to the point of being dangerous. It's going on the grill anyway, and the heat will kill anything. That reasoning is wrong, and dangerously so. Bacteria like Staphylococcus aureus produce heat-resistant toxins during the time food spends in the temperature danger zone. Those toxins don't get cooked away. The grill solves nothing once that process has started. Health Canada is unambiguous on this. And yet, according to employee accounts, Montana's kitchen culture was treating basic food safety as an inconvenience to be managed around rather than a non-negotiable standard. For a chain charging $20 to $28 for a rack of ribs that were never anywhere near a smoker, that safety record is especially hard to stomach. Montana's isn't the worst chain on this list, but it might be the most dishonest. And dishonesty in a kitchen has a way of spreading well beyond the menu description. Next up, a Canadian comfort food icon that's been letting us down quietly for decades. At number 4, Swiss Chalet. We have Canada's comfort food classic that's been coasting on nostalgia for far too long. There are certain meals that are woven into the fabric of Canadian life. Swiss Chalet rotisserie chicken is one of them. Generations of Canadians have grown up with it after hockey tournaments, on Friday nights when nobody wanted to cook, during family road trips when the Swiss Chalet sign off the highway felt like a genuine relief. The quarter chicken with dipping sauce is practically a cultural artifact, which is exactly why what's happening inside those kitchens is so disappointing to report. Like East Side Mario's, Swiss Chalet sits under the Recipe Unlimited umbrella. And like East Side Mario's, the corporate ownership hasn't translated into consistent, reliable food safety standards at the location level. The day-to-day reality varies dramatically depending on who's managing that specific kitchen on that specific night. And across Canada, health inspection records tell a story that the warm, nostalgic Swiss Chalet advertising absolutely does not. Let's talk about the chicken, because Swiss Chalet's entire identity rests on it. The rotisserie chicken is real. They do actually cook chicken on rotisserie spits in-house, and that's worth acknowledging. But the supporting cast of that meal is considerably less impressive than the menu implies. The famous dipping sauce, the thing Swiss Chalet devotees genuinely love, the sauce that has its own dedicated fan base, arrives as a powder mix that gets reconstituted with water in the kitchen. It is not a slow-developed, carefully seasoned house recipe. It is a packet. A very successful, very well-marketed packet. The coleslaw is pre-shredded cabbage mixed with pre-made dressing from a bucket. The seasonal vegetables are frozen mixed medleys that get microwaved and buttered before hitting your plate. The fries arrive frozen from a supplier. For a chain whose entire marketing language revolves around warmth, care, and home-style cooking, the reality is a series of reheated and reconstituted components assembled around one genuinely cooked centerpiece. The food safety picture adds another uncomfortable layer. Health inspections across multiple provinces have cited Swiss chalet locations for temperature control issues, particularly concerning given that improperly handled poultry is one of the leading causes of foodborne illness in Canada. Chicken must be stored, handled, and cooked with precision. When inspection reports flag temperature problems at a chicken restaurant, that's a direct risk to whoever is eating there that night. Former employees have described pressure to move product quickly during peak hours, with proper cooling and storage protocols becoming casualties of a busy dinner rush. Sound familiar? It's the same pattern we've seen at every chain below Swiss Chalet on this list: speed over safety, margin over standards, the customer's health treated as an acceptable variable. Swiss Chalet deserves credit for at least cooking their main product in-house. But coasting on decades of goodwill while quietly cutting corners in the kitchen is its own kind of betrayal, especially when Canadians are trusting you with their family dinners. And if Swiss Chalet feels like a quiet disappointment, the next entry on our list is something far louder and far more personal for most Canadians. Tim Hortons. The most Canadian betrayal on this entire list. There is no institution in this country more deeply embedded in our national identity than Tim Hortons. It's not just a coffee shop. It's where hockey parents warm their hands at 6 a.m. rinkside. It's the double-double on a January morning commute. It's the Timbits box at the office meeting, the drive-through lineup that somehow feels patriotic. Tim Hortons isn't just where Canadians eat and drink, it's part of how we understand ourselves as Canadians, which makes what's actually happening behind that counter so much harder to swallow. Let's start with the donuts, because the mythology around them is enormous, and the reality is deflating. That donut you're eating was not made this morning in the kitchen behind the counter. It was not made yesterday. It wasn't made anywhere near your local Tim Hortons. It arrived frozen from a facility in Bradford, Ontario, was thawed and finished in-store, and was handed to you under a slogan, "Always Fresh," that Tim Hortons quietly retired in practice back in 2003 when they abandoned in-store baking entirely. Former employees have a name for the back room where this happens. They don't call it the bakery, they call it the defrost station. Let that reframe every Tim Hortons donut you've ever felt good about ordering. But frozen pastries, honestly, are the least of the concerns here. In July 2023, a Tim Hortons location in Napanee, Ontario, made national headlines for all the wrong reasons. Health inspectors, acting on complaints, discovered a rodent infestation so severe that they ordered the restaurant closed immediately. The inspection report detailed mouse droppings found throughout the food preparation area, droppings discovered near the coffee brewing equipment, evidence of rodent activity in the storage room where baked goods were kept, and gnaw marks on food packaging, mouse droppings near the coffee brewing equipment. Oh boy, the coffee you grab on your morning commute, the double-double that feels like a small daily ritual of Canadian normalcy. At this location, it was being brewed mere feet from active rodent contamination. And this is only the one that made the news because the infestation was severe enough to force an immediate closure. Across Canada, health inspection databases tell quieter versions of the same story at Tim Hortons locations from coast to coast. Then there's the food. Former Tim Hortons workers have been remarkably candid online about what actually happens in that kitchen. The soup, another menu item marketed around warmth and comfort, arrives in bags and gets heated in hot water. The chili sits in the same pot all day, sometimes, according to one employee from a Greater Toronto area location, for 2 days. When sales are slow and product isn't moving, the practice is reportedly to add new chili on top of old chili and keep it going. Management's justification, allegedly, was that it's fine as long as they keep it hot. Health Canada's food safety guidance doesn't leave much room for interpretation here. Cooked food that sits out for more than 2 hours needs to be discarded. The reasoning is straightforward. Heat alone doesn't eliminate every risk once food has been in the danger zone long enough. Keeping a pot of 2-day-old chili hot is not a food safety strategy. It's a gamble with your digestive system. And then there's the coffee itself, the thing Tim Hortons has built its entire empire on. After Restaurant Brands International acquired Tim Hortons, something changed. Loyal customers across Canada began noticing it first. The coffee tasted different, weaker, more bitter, less like the Tims they'd been drinking for decades. Blind taste tests confirmed what those customers suspected. The blend had changed. Tim Hortons denied it publicly and categorically, but former employees revealed what was actually happening. Brewing temperatures had been quietly lowered and hold times extended, both moves designed to reduce coffee waste and protect profit margins. The signature product of Canada's most iconic coffee chain was being quietly degraded to save money, while the company publicly insisted nothing had changed. That combination, The gap between the always fresh mythology and the defrostation reality, the rodent infestation in Napanee, the two-day chili, the quietly reformulated coffee, adds up to something that feels like a genuine breach of trust. Tim Hortons cut corners on the specific things Canadians trusted it most to get right, while wrapping itself in maple leaf imagery and hockey sponsorships and the language of Canadian identity. You deserve better than that from your morning coffee stop. And frankly, so does the country. But as painful as the Tim Hortons entry is, what comes next is arguably the most viscerally alarming story on this entire list, because at least Tim Hortons' worst moment involved mice. The next chain served dinner through something considerably worse: Kelsey's, the neighborhood grill that kept cooking through a sewage flood. Kelsey's has always marketed itself as your friendly, casual neighborhood spot, the kind of place you'd go for a burger and a beer after the kids' Saturday hockey game, somewhere between a sports bar and a family restaurant, comfortable and familiar. The branding is cheerful. The reality, based on inspection records and employee testimony, is something considerably darker. Let's start with the incident that defines Kelsey's entry on this list, because it is genuinely one of the most alarming restaurant stories to emerge from a Canadian chain in recent memory. In 2023, a Kelsey's location in Brampton made headlines when health inspectors discovered raw sewage backing up into the kitchen during active dinner service. Floor drains were overflowing. Sewage water was splashing onto prep surfaces. The smell, according to a whistleblower employee who posted about the incident online, was unbearable. And management's response? Keep cooking. Keep serving. A Saturday night is too valuable to lose. According to the whistleblower, the manager explicitly told staff they couldn't close because of the revenue they'd lose. So they kept cooking and serving food in a kitchen with active sewage contamination for another 2 hours, until a customer, apparently noticing something was deeply wrong, called 311. The franchise owner was fined $25,000. But the fine, significant as it is, almost misses the point. Dozens of customers ate food that night prepared in a kitchen actively contaminated with raw sewage. That's a serious public health failure driven by a decision to prioritize Saturday night revenue over the basic safety of every person who walked through that door. Beyond Brampton, former Kelsey's employees describe a culture of systemic corner cutting. A cook from a Mississauga location reported a walk-in cooler that broke and stayed broken for 6 days. Rather than disposing of the affected inventory, management allegedly instructed staff to move the most critical items to the functioning cooler and use ingredients from the broken one first. Those ingredients were being stored at 15 degrees Celsius, well above the 4 degrees Celsius maximum for safe refrigeration. Every dish made from that cooler during those 6 days was prepared with ingredients stored at nearly 4 times the safe temperature limit. Kelsey's isn't just a chain with occasional lapses. It's a chain where the evidence suggests safety failures are baked into the operational culture, which makes the contrast with our #1 chain all the more striking, because doing things right, it turns out, is actually possible. Best, the Keg Steakhouse proof that a Canadian restaurant chain can actually do it right. After everything we've just walked through, the sewage kitchens, the expired meat, the mouse droppings near the coffee machine, the smokehouse that's never seen a smoker, the defrost station masquerading as a bakery, arriving at the Keg Steakhouse feels like finally exhaling. Not because the Keg is perfect. No restaurant chain operating at this scale is perfect, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. But compared to the 6 chains we've just dissected, the Keg operates in a genuinely different category. And understanding why matters for every dollar you spend eating out in this country. Start with the food safety record, because after everything on this list, that's the foundation everything else has to be built on. Health inspection records for Keg locations across Canada show consistently strong performance. Violations, when they occur, tend to be minor, the kind of paperwork corrections that get addressed quickly rather than the recurring, systemic failures we've documented at chains like Kelsey's, Montana's, and Eastside Mario's. The kitchen staff at the Keg receives more comprehensive training than most casual dining operations in Canada, particularly around proper food handling, temperature control, and the kind of basic hygiene protocols that, as we've seen, are apparently optional at several chains on this list. And crucially, that training is backed up by appropriate staffing. One of the most consistent threads running through every horror story on this list is the skeleton crew problem. Kitchens running with too few people, under too much pressure, cutting corners because there is literally no other way to get the food out. The Keg staffs its kitchens to handle peak volume without sacrificing standards. That single operational decision prevents a cascade of safety failures before they ever start. Then there's the food itself. And this is where the keg most dramatically separates itself from the pack. Remember the Montana's ribs that were boiled in liquid smoke bags? Remember the Eastside Mario's marinara that came in Cisco tubs? Remember the Swiss Chalet dipping sauce that's actually a powder packet? The keg operates on a fundamentally different model. Their steaks are hand-cut on site by trained butchers, not pre-portioned at a central facility, not vacuum-sealed and shipped to locations. Hand-cut, in-house, by people who know what they're doing. The signature Caesar salad is made fresh with real Parmesan, not the pre-shredded bag cheese sitting open in a walk-in cooler that we encountered at Boston Pizza. The twice-baked potatoes are, in fact, baked twice, not reheated from frozen, actually baked twice the way the name implies. The ingredient sourcing is transparent in a way that stands in stark contrast to the industrial supply chains feeding most casual dining chains. The keg uses AAA Canadian beef that's traceable to specific suppliers. Their seafood comes from reputable sources with proper cold chain management, meaning the fish you're eating tonight was handled correctly at every step between the ocean and your plate, not just thrown in a walk-in and hoped for the best. Produce is delivered fresh multiple times per week, rather than sitting in storage for extended periods, quietly degrading while staff try to revive it with ice water dunks. Yes, you will pay more at the keg. An entree runs $35 to $50, compared to $18 to $25 at the chains we ranked lower. But here's what that premium is actually buying you. Food prepared by properly trained staff, ingredients that are genuinely what the menu claims them to be, consistent food safety practices, and kitchen conditions that could pass inspection on any night of the week without anyone scrambling to hide anything. When you factor in the full cost of the alternative, the risk of foodborne illness from improperly stored chicken, the disappointment of paying $22 for a pasta dish assembled from Cisco tubs, the deeply unsettling reality of eating food prepared in a kitchen where sewage was backing up 2 hours earlier, the keg's pricing starts to look considerably more reasonable. You're not just paying for a steak, you're paying for the confidence that the people who made your dinner actually gave a damn about making it right. The common thread running from Boston Pizza at the bottom to the keg at the top isn't just food quality, it's respect. Respect for the customer, respect for basic safety standards, respect for the simple idea that when you hand over your hard-earned money for a meal, after a long week, on a family night out, during cottage country road trips, you deserve to actually get what they paid for. Now, we want to hear from you. Which restaurant on this list shocked you most? Drop it in the comments below. And if this opened your eyes to what's really going on behind the scenes at Canada's most recognizable restaurant chains, hit that like button and subscribe, because we're just getting started.